Hey, guys and girls, it's Ron Bass with another edition of Soar High Personal Development, your source for inspiration. Well, today, joining me, as always, is Davin Hunley with an
Cheers.
I, and Brent Atterbury, marketing guru.
Hello.
Hello, hello. So today we're going to talk about it's a pretty deep subject, but that's okay. You know me, I like to delve into deep subjects. We're going to talk about drug addiction and mental illness. Actually, I think mental illness ought to be more like called brain illness because really it's a chemical problem more than anything. When my brother was coming along, he was diagnosed as schizophrenic, and I remember his psychiatrist showed me on the wall. He had a like an X-ray of the brain. He says, "Ron, you see this? That's schizophrenia." And I never will forget that because it made me realize that at a young age that mental illness really isn't. It's really a biological, chemical, physiological thing in the brain itself. Either you're born that way or certain things cause it to become that way. And so that's what's up with at least the schizophrenia side of it. But drug addiction oftentimes comes along with mental illness because when you don't feel good, what do you want to do? You want to find a way to feel better. And one of the ways to feel better is to numb your hurt. So what do? You do drugs, you do alcohol. And then what happens, unfortunately, is you have a whole nother problem. Now you have an addiction problem along with a brain illness problem. And now you got a huge mess. And I see this a lot and I think about it a lot. And it's really unfortunate. And I'm not saying there's any magical answers, but I'd like to talk today about the different ways that people can find solutions to these problems. Being a former drug addict myself, I can tell you that it's never an easy thing to overcome addiction, but you can do it. Some people can do it on their own. Some people need assistance, prayer, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to delve into these subjects today and talk about it. What do you guys have to say?
I think first things first is that you can find a way to get out of, say, you're addicted to nicotine.
Yes.
And when you feel like you want to, like, smoke a cigarette, say you have a coffee or you have a soda. I know that's not as not healthy either way. Caffeine is not the best, but it's better than going and smoking a cigarette.
Yes.
Same with like trying to find say like making beats, making beats when you want to smoke a joint or when you want to have a drink. Find a way to distract yourself from the original distraction. I know that doesn't really help, or I'm not explaining it very
No,
well,
I get
but
what you're saying. You want to find a way to fill the void with something that's less harmful.
correct, yeah.
By the way, on the nicotine side, when I quit smoking years ago, I was a big nicotine guy. I used coffee as one of the ways to quit smoking. Every time I wanted to smoke, I would drink coffee,
Caffeine is a very close drug to nicotine.
but not nearly as physically harmful,
Correct.
obviously, as the smoke in your lungs,
Correct.
which kills lots of people and
Mhm.
makes breathing difficult. And
Yes.
you get the idea.
Oh, I know. Trust me.
So on the beat side, that's interesting. Instead of smoking a joint, uh, maybe delving into your hobby or
Yeah.
your profession,
Play a video
more
game, play
like
a card game.
something to
Yeah.
take the place of it. I also think exercise is a great way to help overcome addiction because. Go ahead.
Did you know that he was going to say exercise?
No, but he does talk about that a lot.
Yeah, it's a great way to overcome a lot of things, right? But I mean, particularly addiction. Like in my case, I started running, and I noticed that between the running and the coffee, it really calmed down the jitters that you're going to get when you don't smoke anymore. Because that nicotine that's tough, man. And you
Mhm.
want to smoke so bad, but you can't do it if you want to quit. You can't just ease off of. Now people go to vaping now. I guess it's better than nicotine. Or it's nicotine, but I guess it's better than cigarettes. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I assume it is. But then again, there haven't been a lot of studies because it hasn't been out that long compared to cigarettes. What do you think about that?
I mean, I stopped vaping. I started at like 16, like a really young age.
Okay.
And eventually it just turned into, I didn't like the way it made me feel. I didn't get the buzz from the nicotine
Oh,
anymore.
you didn't?
And yeah, because when you do it so long, it's kind
Oh,
of,
okay. I see what you're saying.
it feels like it's almost just, there's
Isn't
nothing
that true?
there.
Like with almost all drugs, though, like even alcohol. Like somebody told me, yeah, I used to drink a case of beer a day, and I wasn't even drunk. And I thought, really?
It's
So
all
you
about your
build a resistance,
tolerance.
right? A
Yeah, your
tolerance.
tolerance. Yeah.
Same thing with cigarettes. Same thing with drugs. I remember doing cocaine one time, and or back in the day, and it's like the more you do, the less you get effect, and you have to do more and more, and
Yeah.
it's a dead end.
Yeah, exactly. And it starts
It's
to pile.
horrible. And isn't that why some people wind up OD'd, right?
Yes,
Or wrong?
correct.
It's horrible. It's a
Correct.
dead end road.
I agree.
It's horrible. Okay,
I know.
Brent, you're awfully
Yeah, I was
quiet.
gonna say Brent's our angel, but I want to hear
Oh,
from him.
I've been very blessed and fortunate not to have family members or myself, my wife, my kids, my brothers, sisters be involved in drug addiction or alcoholism. So that's a good thing. However, my wife, her dad was a full blown. He was on a scale of 1 to 10. He was an 11 alcoholic.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he would every night he would go to the bar. He would sometimes his wife would have to go get him. He'd be passed out.
Wow.
It got so bad with alcohol and drug addiction that they took him to Fulton, Missouri, to get rehabilitated. And my wife tells these stories, and she remembers very vivid, clear details about, what color the door was that they opened to go in and see your dad. And, that's got to be hard.
Oh, sure.
Your dad is supposed to be, or your mom, your parents are supposed to be,
Yeah.
you're supposed to look up to him. And she just couldn't. And it was very frustrating. The good news is, I don't think anybody got beaten per se, but the mental abuse was rampant, and it affected the relationship of the family. So I've seen and heard what it could do. Now he did get rehab. He went into Alcoholics Anonymous, and then he went on to, for years, he would go downtown. He would get guys off the street
Help them.
and helped them. So
Mentored
he gave back. But I think in the years when you have to really care and work on your family as they're young, he did a poor job of that.
Well, speaking of family and young and parents and the leadership role of the parent, I often talk about how the you become who you surround yourself with. That's just a law of psychology. So, like in my dad's case, he smoked, I smoked. He drank, I drank. My brother did drugs, I did drugs. So it's nothing's perfect. And who's to say that if you didn't do drugs and didn't smoke and didn't drink, that your kids would be sober? Maybe not, but I think the odds are much better, more
I-
likely that would be the case.
I
don't
agree
you think?
with you. However, because of how her dad was, I mean, we'll go to Florida. Would you like a pina colada? I'm going to go up there and get us a drink with an umbrella in it. We're going to have one, and she just doesn't do it. And
do it.
I think it just brings back bad memories.
Yeah, real bad
Yeah,
memories.
and a lot of excuse me, a lot of like sons and daughters of alcoholics or people that are addicted to things, they don't want to try that because they believe like, maybe I'll get addicted to it as well, or I'll have that trouble.
Mhm.
I think there's something to be said about genes you inherit that gene too. I think there's a lot of that goes on. Somewhere up the line, and my mother used to tell me, "Yeah, your grandfather or your dad's brother or whatever, he was this or that, and he had an alcohol or a drug problem, and he was kind of crazy." And I think there's a certain amount of this that goes up and down the gene line.
right.
That if you're somebody, your grandfather or grandfather's grandfather had some kind of a mental illness or an addiction, it could pass down to the next generation. What do you guys think about that?
I think that's true in a way. But I can also see like so with my family has always been fairly addicted to alcohol, but it's mostly like the men in my family. So my grandmother worries more than anything. But I I don't want to say yes or no because I don't feel like I'm addicted to anything. Maybe working.
What's the song? You're addicted to love.
Yeah, I'm addicted to love. The
That was a pretty good song.
music is the drug. I don't
Music's the
know.
drug. Music is the medicine. That's what a friend of mine used to say.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a beer when I'm cooking out on the grill, and I might not even finish it, and I have beer in the house, and but I don't drink liquor. I just can't do it.
Well, I think
Number
alcohol.
one,
I think beer is liquor. It's all alcohol.
Okay.
Well, he
hard
means
liquor.
he means hard liquor.
Yeah, I
but
don't drink
what's
hard
the
liquor.
difference?
Well, heartburn for me anyway. But
I hear people say that all the time. Like, I
but-
don't drink hard.
well,
Like,
and I don't-
like alcohol is alcohol.
Yeah, I don't do it because I don't feel good.
Right.
So-
exactly.
I agree with what
Particularly
you're
the next
saying,
but
day.
the
I get it.
beer
I get it.
or two doesn't
Doesn't
bother
bother
me at
me.
all.
Bothers
And-
me. I get bloated. I don't.
Yeah.
I still don't feel good the next day.
Yeah.
It's just. I guess you can get used to anything.
Yeah.
See, like for me, I have okay. These are called Trulies. Think of it as an alcoholic Sprite with some flavor.
Okay.
And they're like 5%. I'll have like 2 or 3 a night, but it's not like I'm getting drunk off my ass. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's just like
It's a relaxant.
yeah, it's enough to just chill out and do what I'm doing, and then I go to
Right.
sleep, and I don't feel bad the next day. I don't have a headache, anything like that. It's very minimal. It's like a soda almost. So, I
gotcha.
wouldn't say I feel like if I didn't have it for a couple of weeks or months,
You wouldn't
I
go crazy, right?
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
I know my doctor, when I went in for a physical a few years ago, which I need to go back in anyway, but
getting old.
yeah, you're supposed to go once a year. But he said, he goes, "Do you drink alcohol?" And I said, "Well, I have a beer." And he goes, "Well, how many?" And I go, "Well, how many is bad?"
It's bad.
And I said, "Well, I may have 2 or 3 or 4 a week." He goes, "Oh, no problem." I said, "Well, what's bad?" And he goes, "If you would have told me 3 or more a day, then we have a problem." So he said, because I guess over time, over years, it affects certain things.
It does.
Speaking of good
Uh,
health, I was reading about
7 days a week is what he meant. Yeah.
a gentleman. I think he was a producer in Hollywood. He died at 58, and he was a fitness freak. And I'm thinking, so that's what I'm saying. There's no guarantees. However, the odds are definitely to your favor if you're healthy and fit and exercise and eat right and rest well and don't do drugs and alcohol to an extreme and et cetera. But ain't nothing perfect in life, guys. You got to enjoy every day
I'll
because you don't
say-
know.
I'll say this too. Even though they may not be alcoholics or drug addicts, some of the clients I work with in the construction industry, usually about 50% of the people that get fired are because they showed up high or they showed up with alcohol in the breath and the customer called.
Yeah.
So, if that's going to jeopardize your job, why do you do it?
Right.
You can drink when you get home, but don't,
Exactly.
or smoke when you get home, but don't
Well,
do
that's
it
the problem with
on the job.
That's the problem with addiction. You can't.
And they
you
must
can't
be
control it.
addicted. And that's where it affects the lives. And they probably have a spouse or kids or something.
Here's
They're
another
supposed to
side
be.
of the coin. I remember when I was doing the pills all the time, and I thought, well, nobody noticed, but everybody noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't think anybody notices.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But when you're sober,
Yeah.
you look around and you see people that are high, and you recognize it easily.
Yeah, right.
that was
right
me
off
at
the
that.
bat, right off
It's
the bat.
crazy. Like, was I like that? Yeah, you were like that. It's crazy. Life's crazy.
I
I'm
want to go back
crazy
to the
too.
health thing. For anybody that's young, that's watching, I talked to my doctor about the same thing. Like he asked me, how much alcohol do I drink? And I said, well, I have little Truly 2 or 3 times a day, and like mostly every day. And he's like, okay, that's very normal for your age. He said, now when you get into 30, 40, maybe cut back on them. But for right now, like a young person, it's normal. I just don't want anyone to feel like, they're exiled because
Everything is easier when you're young, but as you grow older,
You have to
everything's more
learn to-
complicated.
I think there's the key is to moderation and knowing
Yes.
when it becomes a crutch. I don't drink because I'm mad, or if I'm all stressed out, I go have 5 beers, so I'll feel better.
Exactly.
I don't do that. But I think the people that do have a problem.
Yeah, I think that's where it becomes a problem, is when you need it to sleep or
Yeah.
when you need it to calm down.
Yeah.
I don't do it for any of that. I do it just because, it tastes good and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, what makes you feel good. But what makes you feel the best is what? What you
Music.
yeah, music.
Music.
Music and exercise. We'll talk about
You, Ronnie. You,
Yeah,
Ronnie.
thank you so much. Let's talk about music and exercise. Music, because it's it actually affects the part of the brain where it creates endorphins. It's interesting. Also, exercise, but you can't beat exercise. It's like keeping your car tuned up. It's like changing the oil. It revs better. It just runs
It
better.
revs better.
It just does. And
Yeah.
I didn't write the rules. I just follow them. I mean, for anybody listening out there that's struggling with drugs and alcohol addiction or any addiction, I got another friend that's got a gambling addiction. Well, he's kicked it, I hope. He, addiction's addiction. But when you know you've got a problem, you have to hit it head on. You can't sweep it under the rug. You have to find a solution. And to me, one of the best things I can advise people is to get an exercise routine. 30 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, an hour to do something, walk, run, bike, lift weights, do jujitsu, do wrestling, gymnastics, something that keeps you that you can get your heart rate up and stay focused on your exercise for at least 30 minutes to an hour. And you'll be surprised how much better you'll sleep and feel and look and then that addiction becomes less of a problem. Is it perfect? No. Are you going to have to work at it? Yes. But anything's better than the addiction because the addiction is going to ruin your life sooner or later, and it's going to ruin the lives around you. Like I remember growing up with my father with his alcoholism, and I love my father, but it just affects everybody in such a horrible way. Can't keep a job, upsetting people, mean when you're drinking, hurt your feelings, you fighting. You get the idea,
Yep.
and that's probably pretty normal for that addiction. But alcohol is no different than alcohol is a drug.
Yep.
People don't want to say that or admit that, but it's just as bad, and it's even easier to be an alcoholic than like a street drug because it's easier to get.
Right.
It doesn't cost as much. Unfortunately, it takes you to the same dark place that any drug addiction, any addiction is going to take you to the same place, to darkness, to a dead end.
I think, Ronnie, it's time for our ad.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Time gets away when you're having fun.
Excuse me.
Okay, so this edition of Soar High Personal Development is brought to you by America's Same Day Service, which is one of our companies. We are heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, appliance, handyman service in most states across the country. So go to samedayservice.com and you'll see our ads and you can place an order and then we'll respond to that. Also, our Soar High brand. We are doing the personal development business, of course. This is the podcast part of that, but coming in the future will be Soar High Live, which will be live motivational events. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to eventually have an audio book, maybe several, and audio downloads to keep people motivated. You have to have motivation every day, just like you have to exercise every day. You can't count on one big event to feel really excited and ambitious, and then the next day it's going to carry over. Probably not. You have to engage in motivation every day, positiveness. And of course, Soar High Jiu-Jitsu. We have a dojo in Springfield, Missouri. Mike Rose, that's his gym. Coach Mike. If you're in Springfield, Missouri, stop in or check us out on Facebook, Soar High Jiu-Jitsu. So, and Soar High Music, Soar High Entertainment, which Davin's our producer.
It's like I hit him with a cattle prod.
I almost forgot. So we're doing producing several artists at this time and growing our music business. We're also going to have a Soar High Live beginning in the summer.
Yes.
With our own artists. We're going to be having our own live entertainment events.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the commercial. Any final closing thoughts, guys?
Brent, let's start with you.
I don't have a lot, guys, because all I see is what I'm exposed to on a weekly, monthly basis, and that is my wife's stories, and they're never good. So don't do that to your kids. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And then again, a lot of my clients are home improvement, and these guys don't have to lose their job. They don't have to lose their way to make a living so they can pay their bills. Addiction is a bad thing, especially on the drugs and the alcohol side. So, get help, uh, get it under control so you can manage it, and so you can function in society.
I think I agree. Like, no need to do that to your kids, your family, the people around you. Like you said, Ronnie, like yourself, even. You have to have more self
Mhm.
worth than that. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, woe is me. And then you start, hitting the bottle, and then the bottle is your best friend. Like, find something that you enjoy besides the bottle or besides the pipe or, any of these other things. And if you don't have anything, eventually you'll work your way up there, to something that you do have that you can have fun with.
Okay. Couple thoughts. I think people are oftentimes embarrassed to want to bring these problems up to other people because they're uncomfortable, but you can't do that. You have to talk to somebody if you've got an addiction or if you have a mental illness and you know that something's not right. Talk to your pastor, your rabbi, talk to your best friend, somebody that's not going to judge you. And then from there, hopefully you can get some good advice to go to a professional, and then from there hopefully you can get some help along with the normal natural thing to do, which is to exercise. I know I preach about that all the time, but you can do that without anybody's help, and you'd be surprised and shocked at how much that will help you. Okay, so I'll quit preaching now. So just remember, if you don't give up, the stars will always line up. So until next time, everybody, stay positive.